Today's television program examines another aspect of the broad mosaic of the Right to Life movement. Cartoons. Cartoons, you say? How can anyone deal seriously with such serious topics like abortion, embryonic stem cell research, cloning, eugenics, euthanasia, etc., via cartoons? Well, today we'll find out. I think you'll find today's show to be unique, informative, content-rich, truthful, and thought-provoking. Today's guest was born in Arlington, Virginia, and raised across the Potomac River in Silver Springs, Maryland. He graduated from the University of Scranton in 1976 with a degree in philosophy. He has worked 25 years as a graphic artist, producing comic books and cartoons among his multifaceted work. Since 2001, he has created a comic strip called Umbert the Unborn. He's a member of the board of directors of the Pennsylvania Human Life Group. That's the Scranton chapter. And our guest, who drove all the way up from Scranton, Pennsylvania today in the rain, settled there after college in absolute wedded bliss with his wife Nancy and their 3 children. Well, welcome to our guest, Gary Kingemi.
Thank you, Brendan. Great to be here today. Thanks very much for having me.
Nice to have you. Well, Gary, now let me ask you, how did you venture into the broad mosaic of the pro-life movement, and how did it evolve? How did you get involved with this?
Well, I've always been pro-life, Brendan, through my upbringing and so forth, my beliefs. I remember even passionately debating the issues in high school in my sociology class. But I never really had the opportunity to get hands-on with the movement. I know a lot of people were on the front lines doing all the work ever since Roe versus Wade got implemented. And but it was about 10 years ago, the president of our local chapter, Helen Gosler, fine woman, very, very dedicated to our movement, asked me if I would try to come up with a way of teaching about pro-life issues to children. And I promised her I would give it some thought and see what I could come up with. Well, it took me about 10 years to come up with an idea, but I finally did, and she was very happy with the results. But once I began this pro-life cartoon work, I felt it was important that I also get involved in the movement as well. So I joined our local pro-life chapter and got on the board of directors. So I'm actively involved in the movement itself.
I see. Now, where did the name and the concept for Umbert come from?
Okay.
Umbert the Unborn. That's an unusual.
Well, I was a local political cartoonist in the Scranton area. And often I would draw political cartoons, editorial cartoons, about the pro-life issue and the anti-abortion issues. And once I did a little strip about a baby about to be aborted. And I had tucked that strip in a scrapbook, and about 10 years later, I came upon it again, and as soon as I saw that little baby's face in the comic strip, I thought, wow, if I could make a regular character, out of an unborn child, I could give a voice, a face, and a personality to the unborn child, and maybe people would, soften up to the whole concept of it being a person.
I see, I see. And now, your comic strip today, Umbert the Unborn, currently, where is it shown? Is it what kind of mediums is it shown?
Well, first of all, I started 5 years ago getting it into newspapers, mostly faith-based, Catholic diocesan newspapers. The first one actually to take it on was the National Catholic Register, which it appears in every week.
I see.
But I'm also in about 25 other diocesan papers, from all the way from Hawaii to Alaska to Texas, the Midwest.
So Umbert gets around.
He gets around. He's down south too. I'm also in about 80 or more church bulletins. Churches love to run it in their bulletins.
Wow.
And in about 30 pro-life newsletters and around the country.
I see. Very interesting. Now, is there a single message you convey, or just a single topic that you're dealing with?
Well, a lot of people think, well, gee, it's such a limited idea. I mean, you have a baby in the womb, and it's such a confined space. How can you come up with a lot of ideas for a cartoon with such a limited idea? And a lot of editors were concerned about that, and they voiced it to me. They said, well, Umbert seems like a one-joke idea. And I proved them wrong in 5 years. I have a very vivid imagination, and you're only limited by the size of your imagination. For instance, Umbert has his own prenatal computer, and he goes on the inner womb, and he Talks with other unborn babies in chat wombs.
In chat wombs?
Chat wombs, right. When he gets hungry, he dials a womb service.
Wombs.
Yeah. He imagines himself as an astronaut with the umbilical cord tied to the mothership. Or a deep sea diver because he's immersed in water. Sometimes he practices for the Olympics, become an Olympic swimmer. Sometimes he hosts his own unborn news show during his ultrasounds. Like he'll have a little desk and tie and everything when his ultrasound is on, and he'll do his own little news show.
Wow, that's great.
So I mean, you're really limited by your only by your imagination.
By imagination.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, let's take a look at the first comic strip, if you may get that up on the screen, the first panel. And why don't you read it to us?
Sure. Umbert's saying, life is like baseball. Next slide. Everyone deserves a chance at bat, but if your team doesn't want you, the least they can do is send you to a team that does. Now, this comic strip obviously deals with the subject of adoption. He's saying, Umbert is commenting that, he's ready for the team and he deserves a place on the team, just like every child does. But if his team doesn't want him, being his parents, then they should put him on another team. So not just eliminate him from the game.
Well, that's certainly a very wonderful concept to the whole adoption thing.
Sure.
Now, how about the next comic strip?
Sure, let's take a look at it. Life in the womb is like hotel living. Deluxe accommodations, indoor heated pool. See, I even get free cable. That's on the lighter side. A lot of the Umbert cartoons deal with maternity humor.
Right.
So a lot of expectant moms appreciate the humor.
I see.
Umbert might have his mother might be feeling bloated one day, and Umbert is in there with a whole bunch of pool toys and inflatable toys. So to explain that.
I see. Now, how about the next comic strip?
Sure. Who says I'm unviable? Because I'm dependent on my parents for everything? Because I can't live outside the womb on my own? By that standard, I won't be viable till after college. Now, every parent can relate to that.
And beyond.
Yes. My son just graduated from graduate school, and he just became viable.
Oh,
so,
I see. Okay.
It's a full-time job now.
I see.
So that kind of deals with the issue of viability.
Right,
How
right.
absurd it can be sometimes.
It's definitely, I mean, the way some people want it, the child would have to be 6 or 7 years old before they'd be considered a child.
Sure.
That's how extreme it's gotten out there.
All
right, let's look at the next comic strip.
I just don't understand some people. On one hand, they want to save baby harp seals, but it's open season on baby humans. I have an idea. Hey, I'm not taking any chances. And he's wearing a baby harp seal costume.
Oh, he is.
Okay. Umbert often comments on the seeming absurdity of the environmental movement, how it's so concerned with saving animals, but some of the same people involved in that movement really are pro-abortion as well. They don't want to apply the same, desire to save baby humans.
Right, right.
So that kind of just points to the inconsistency of that argument.
I see. All right, and the next cartoon?
Sure. There's a lot more talk about cloning. Can you imagine cloning a human being? Take me, for instance. God made me right the first time. Why tamper with success?
Well, it sounds like Umbert has humility, too.
Well, he's just saying God does it best. One of Umbert's favorite sayings is God's a genius. Because the things we take for granted, Umbert is amazed at. Like elbows, which hinges on your arms, or the fact that we have 2 legs. You have a spare in case one gets broken. He's just fascinated with the things we all take for granted.
I see. Okay, and the next cartoon?
Environmentalists today protested the development of Goose Lake. He's listening to his little radio, arguing that this pristine aquatic habitat should be a protected wetland. Under federal protection, wetlands provide a safe haven for fish, birds, and other life forms. Hey, if this doesn't qualify as a wetland, nothing does. So here's Umbert's campaign to have the womb declared a federally protected wetland.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.